Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We're up to Daf Yud Ches. It's on the bottom, four lines from the bottom of Daf Yud Ches. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves in the previous Daf, just to finish the Sugya of Mechusar Begadim. And now we have a brisa like this. We're getting involved deeper into the Sugya of Begadim, Big Day Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Hoyu Mirshalin. What if the Big Day Kohen Gadol were too long? They were dragging on the floor as he was walking. They were Murushalin. Yeah? Mesulakin. What if it was too short? Yeah? You could see his knees or whatever. It's too short. It's hanging in the air. Mishuchakim, or it was very old and used. V'ovad avedosik sheira. If he's ovid with the begadim that are either merishal too long, too short, or they are old, it's still kosher. But love a shnei michnasayim, shnei avnetim. What if you wore two pairs of pants, or two gartlich, chisr achas, yitter achas, or he was missing one of the big dekuna, or he was moisif, a different baguette, any baguette. Or he had a band-aid on his flesh under his begadim, so it's a chatzitza. Oy shahayu metushdashin a mikarayin, or whether it was metushtish, it was dirty with some mud, or mikarayin, it was torn. Va'avad avedoseh psula. There the avodas puzzle. Oh, now we get into Machlikas Rav and Shmuel about the first two, Merushalin or Mesulakin. I'm reviewing Shmuel, Merushalin ksherin, Mesulakin psulin. He says Mesulakin is psulin, which is not like the Brisa. Gemara asks, V'tanya Mesulakin ksherin. Shmuel can't argue on a Brisa. Says the Gemara, Merami Barchama loy kasha. Kan shesilkan aydei avneit. When we say it's kosher in the Brisa, it's really the right size. It fits him. But what he did was, like I sometimes tend to do with my pants. I pull them up too high, and I have the belt, right, lock him in a little bit higher on my stomach, and then my wife tells me, put it down normally. Yeah, that's kosher. Kandelesnu meikara klal, and here is where there's not enough material. It's taka short. It's not because he put it onto his, he put it high on his body or he folded it over on his belt. So Rav says that they're both psulim. Murushalin and Mesulakan are psulim. Now it's not like the Brisa. Okay, 1 second. Ravuna Iklal Argiza Ramale Barish Pizchone Miyomer Shmuel Murushalin Ksham Mesulakan psulim Vatayim Slang Sharon. So he had a guest over there in that inn that he started talking to and learning, and the guy said to him, I heard that Shmuel said that Mesulakan is psulim, but the Brisa said it's kosher. So Amar Lei, so Ravuna said, Barmin Adahi, leave that alone because the Shanye Rami Barcham already answered that the Brisa is talking about where it was folded over into his avnet. He really had the proper fit, but he put it on too high. Yeah, and Shmuel, when he said it's puzzle, is because it wasn't the proper fit. It was taka kotzer, not because he put it under his avnet. He folded it over into his avnet. Okay, El Rav kasha. But what about Rav? Rav is the one who says that echad zev psulim lu yitzuyor. You answer mesulakin. Yeah, like Shmuel, but merushalin is still going to be kasha. V'chitema my merushalin. Now, if you're going to want to answer Merushalin, is like this. Merushalin means it's draggy, right? So what does Merushalin mean? Mesulakin al yidei avneit, va'avneit megas ogiz, which means that when the Brisa says Merushalin is kosher, what it really means is, it's draggy if you would unfold it from the avneit, but you took the extra material that was dragging along, and you put it under the avneit, right? You picked it up, and now the avneit is holding it up. So there, the Brisa says it's kosher. You know why? Because once the avneit holds it up, that's like megas ogiz. That's like he went to the tailor, and it's now a fit. We consider it a proper fit. That's what the Brisa is talking about. And Rab is talking about where he didn't do that. It's mamish dragging. He didn't pick it up and adjust it with his belt. So the Gemara says, if you're going to answer Merushalin that way, El Mesulakin kasha. So Mesulakin will be a kasha, because Rab says that Mesulakin is puzzle. Now, you can't answer like Rami Bar Chama, right? Because if you answer like Rami Bar Chama, what are you going to say? You're going to say Mesulakin in the Brisa is kosher because he picked it up with his avnet. But according to Rav, picking it up with your avnet is megas gayas. It's like he's cutting it off. So it shouldn't be a difference if he puts it under his avnet and it's too short, right? Because if Rav answers Merushalin in the way where he says Merushalin, when you put it under the avnet, it's kosher because it's like cut off and it's a fit, right? So then you can't use that Svar B'Masulakin to make it kosher. Why? Because then it's too short. It's going to turn out it's going to be too short, and the avnet is not going to help you. It's going to make it. It's going to make it like Megas August. Says the Gemara. Reb Zera Rav Chadatani. Rav learned the Merushalon Masalakin in one sentence. It's one case. Merushalon shesilkon al yedei avnet ksherin. When you have Merushalon, you have long bigdei kahuna that you then folded it over, whatever extra material you had, you folded over in the avnet, then it's ksherin. So in other words, really, Mesulakin doesn't mean Mesulakin was too short. Merushalon al yedei Mesulakin. Meaning it was long, which is a problem, but then you picked it up to the avnet, you folded it over, that's okay. Merushalon that you weren't mesalik, you didn't adjust, fold it over through the avnet, that's a machlikas tanoim, which is really machlikas Rav and Shmuel, right? Rav and Shmuel, with regard to begodim Merushalon, Shmuel says it's kosher, right? And Rav says, it's puzzle. Yeah, Mershon Shloisil Kantanoi, the Tanya. Al Arba Kanfis Ksuscha. It says by tzitzis that you have to put tzitzis on a beged of Arba Kanfis. Arba V'loi Shalish, which means Arba, you have to have 4 corners, not 3. Okay? The Gemara says, yeah, a 3-cornered beged is not mechuyev in tzitzis. Asks the Gemara, Einoi, Ela Arba V'loi Chamish. Maybe it's excluding a 5-cornered beged. No, because there's a reboy for a balas chamish from the words Asher Techasa Ba. Gemara says, Amana Mekayim Arba V'lei Shalish, so Arba is coming to exclude Shalish. Gemara says, Mori Yisrael Rabbis balas chamish, Loitzi balas Shalish. Why are you Marba? How do you know to be Marba? Balas chamish, you have a reboy and you have a miyut. How do you know go to this direction and say that the reboy is a chamish and the miyut is Shalish? Maybe the opposite way, right? Maris Rabbis balas chamish, Loitzi balas Shalish, Rabbani balas chamish, Yesh b'chal chamish Arba. Makes sense to be Marba Chamish because B'chalal Chamish is Arba, so Yoitze the Arba Kanfas Ksuscha. Moitzi Bala Sholish, Ein B'chalal Sholish Arba, and in Moitzi Bala Sholish because there's no Arba in Sholish. V'tanya Yidach Al Karba Anfas Ksuscha, Arba V'lei Sholish, Arba V'lei Chamish. So B'kitzur Amais you have 2 brises. One brise says the Chamish Kanfas is mechuyev in tzitzis. The other brise says the Chamish Kanfas is not mechuyev in tzitzis. So what do you see from here? You see when you have extra, right? The extra kanaf doesn't ruin the chi of tzitz, doesn't passel it from the chi of tzitzis, right? So here too, the machloikas of Merushalon, when you have extra material on the beged that's dragging on the karka, does that ruin what you have, right? So according to the Tana that says that if you have a beged balas chamesh doesn't ruin it, so it holds Merushalon doesn't ruin it. According to the Tana that says that beged balas chamesh ruins the chi of tzitzis, right? It's not chayiv in tzitzis, so there he'll hold Merushalon as puzzle. So Ma'lam Bakum with the Gemara says yes command the Isadama, and Mar says yes command the less Adami. The Gemara says loy. The Kula Alma command the Isadami. Everybody holds that big day kahuna that a Merushalon is command the Isad passels the beged. Over here you have a Tana by tzitzis that says that balas chomesh doesn't passel the beged from tzitzis. It's still mechuyev in tzitzis. You have a reboy, special reboy over here. Oh, the Idach, the other Tana that says that a beged with chamesh kanfis is not mechuyev in tzitzis, it passels from the chi of tzitzis. Hayish techasaba ma'yavedlei. What about the reboy akra? Says the Gemara meboyle lecheretanya. He needs it for the following brisa. State in the brisa or isa moisai. Torah says you have to see the tzitzis. Prat lechsus laila. Yeah, means that a ksus laila doesn't need tzitzis. Yeah, isa moisai you have to be able to see it. Yeah, ksus laila you can't see. The olden days at least you couldn't see. Now you have. But anyway, the big machlokes are shayna. What is a ksus laila? Ksus laila means zman laila. The Rambam, the Rosh says ksus laila means a beged that's meyuchad laila. Your beged, whatever. Let's say you have a beged that you wear at night that has dalet kanfas, but you only wear it at night. So let's say you put it on during the day, once in a while. It wouldn't be mechuyev, even if it's during the day. According to the Rambam, it would. Okay, big machlokes is shayna. But either way, it's prat l'chsus laila. Where says einoi elo prat l'chsus suma. Maybe it's coming to be mamayit a suma who's put putter from tzitzis because he can't see the tzitzis isa moisoi. Where's the kshoimer shtchasabar ksusuma pa amor? Mani mekayim yisavayis pradlich suslaila. So in other words, suma a marba from ashtachasaba. So my ksuslaila. Gemara says more isla rabbis ksusuma loitz ksuslaila. How do you know to go this way, go the other way? Rabbi ksusuma sheyesh nabariya etzla chayrim. No, ksusuma is more mistaber to be marba because other people can see it. Other people can't see it. So Akapanim, what do you see from here? That the Asher Techasaba is not coming to be marba a beged that has chamesh kanfis. According to this Tana that says that a beged with chamesh kanfis is also apostle, is also not mechuyev in tzitzis. He uses it to be marba ksusuma. The idach, how's the other Tana going to know to be marba ksusuma? May asher Techasaba. The word asher can be marba ksusuma. The idach, if you have asher, why do you need isam? Okay, asher loy darish. He doesn't darish an asher. Tonu Rabbanan says the Gemara. Now we're going weiter in Big Kahuna. Steht in the Torah that you should make the Big Kahuna from bad. What is bad? So the Gemara, Sheyu shall butz. It should be from linen, pishtan. Bad sheyu chadashim. It should also be brand new. Bad sheyu shazurim. It should be woven together. Bad sheyu chutim kafel shisha. It should be 6 chutim. Made out of 6. Each thread should be made out of 6 chutim, and bad shlayul b'shal choyle mohen. Yeah, don't wear a beged choyle together with them. Bad means on its own, by itself. The big dekuna should stand on its own. Rabbi Yoel bishlam shishal butz akamash malam butz and midachrin aloi. Elubatshu chadashim and shchoken loi v'tayim shchoken ksherim. How can you tell me the Bryce is learning from bad that it has to be chadashim, which means it's a din Torah, right? You're learning it from Torah is teaching it. So how could the Brisa say Meshchakim Ksherim? Omar Lei. So v'latameich batchi chutan kafel shisha bad chad l'chodei mashma. What do you mean chutan kafel shisha? How can you learn from bad? Bad means on its own, and you want to say that it has to be tied together from six strings. Alochi kamer begodim shenemer ben bad. In other words, the other conditions are not learned from the word bad. That's not learned from the word bad. Yeah? The Brisa, when the Brisa says bad, it means begodim shenem ben bad. The begodim where the Torah says needs to be from bad, which is big de kahuna, which needs to be from linen. Tzvichin shishal butz, chadoshem shdurim v'shiachot and kafel shisha. Right? But it's not the pshat that you learn all of these conditions, criteria from the word bad. Yeshma l'mitzvah, yeshma l'akiv. Yeah? Some are l'mitzvah, some are l'akiv, and chanami. So when it says chadashim, it's l'mitzvah. The Bryce is right that, but the Eved, it's okay. So the Gemara says, Mimai dahai bad kisnahu. Now you're going to tell me that the only din Torah, the only criteria that you're learning minat Torah from the word bad is the fact that it has to be shalboitz, right? It has to be made out of pishtan. So how do you know that bad means kisna, which is pishtan? Because bad means on its own, by itself, echad, right? So which zera, right, only produces one kana, yeah, bad, right? It stands on its own. 2 kanim don't come out of it. That's pishtan, and that's why the Torah is referring. That's how we know the Torah is referring to pishtan. So Gemara asks, Ema amro, maybe it means wool, because also every hair of the wool grows from its own, on its own. So the Gemara says amr mepatzel. No, it doesn't really. Sometimes you have 2 hairs that can grow from the same source, from the same hole. I don't know what it's called. Gemara says kitna nami mepatzel. What do you mean? Also something about pishtan that could happen as well. Gemara says alidilakusim mepatzel. If it happens, it's unnatural. But by here, it's pretty natural. That's why bad is quicker interpreted, it's quicker translated as pishtan. Ravina Omar, me'achitz paskin yicheskel, pari pishtam yu al roisham, and Michal said, pishtam yu al masneim, lo yachgur b'yazah. So it's paskin yicheskel, which means the mechnasayim of the Kohen Gadol, it says clearly we're from pishtam. Omar Vash Ravina va ad osi yicheskel menolan. Oh, if you're learning yicheskel, how did they know until Yecheskel came along and said that pasuk? Where's the Vlatameicha, the Marchiz, the Vazel, Lamad, Matais Moshe, Rabbeinu, Lamadnu, Elam Adivre, Yecheskel, Ben Buzi, Lamadnu kol ben necher erel leiv erel basel lo yovel mikdashi. Oh, achiboy cheskel minolan. In other words, this halacha that a kohen that doesn't have a bris milah is posel avodah, is mechal the avodah. Yeah? How do I know that mechal the avodah before Yecheskel came along? You learned from Yecheskel, pasuk in Yecheskel. How would I know from before that? El Gemara Gemiri law. It's a Kabbalah, it's a tradition. Va'asi Yecheskel, va'asmachei akra. And Yecheskel came, and he basically plugged it into a pasuk. He was conveyed in a pasuk, right? He made a pasuk in Yecheskel about it, but it's not that we learned it from Yecheskel. You already had Kabbalah beforehand. So Lachal Moshe Messinai, you had it Messinai. Hachanami the Gemara Gemiri law over here also when it says bad, it means pishton. How do we know? It's Gemara Gemiri law, and Yecheskel came along and he basically established it and he expressed it in a pasuk. Once we bring the pasuk in Yecheskel, the end of the pasuk says the Yachgru B'Yaza. Rabbi Yachgru B'Mokim Shemaziyin. Yeah, don't tie the avnate on a place in your body that you could sweat. Right? Don't put it underneath your hips, because underneath your hips sometimes you have fat that folds over there, and there's sweat. There's more sweat there. So don't put the avnate over there. And don't put it above your elbows. Why? Because if you're going to put it right over here, too high, here's also where you sweat, right? The basar folds over. Okay. Elo keneged atzila yedayin. Sorry, don't put it over here. Put it by your elbows. Okay. One time I was standing in front of Izgedar Malka, one of the kings in Paras, midleli am yonai, and I had my avnate very high on my body. And the Melech, the king of Paras, saw me like that, and he was close to the king, and the king lowered it for me. Yeah, you have the pasuk of Lachskanim v'Goy Kodesh, and therefore you have to treat yourself like a kohen. You have to dress like a kohen, which means liyachgru b'Yaza. You have to lower the avnate. When I told the Meimar what happened, Amarli ikayim bach v'hoyu molochem amnayich. Pasuk in Yeshaya says that Losid Lova, the Malchei Umay Sa'olam are going to serve Klal Yisrael. And here you had a micro fulfillment of that nevuah when the when he lowered the belt for you. I seem to remember that Rav Yosef, in one of the Hakdamas to his Sfarim, to tell over a story that he was visiting the king of Spain. Spain is Sfarad. Anyway, they had a very interesting conversation. Rabbi Yosef told them that really all Sfardim are called Sfardim, even if they don't come from Sfarad, from Spain. Why is that? Because the Rambam came from Sfarad, and everybody goes after the Rambam. The Sfardim pass like the Rambam, so you call yourself not so much from where you come geographically, but from who you follow in halacha. And that's why they're all called Sfardim, after the Rambam that came from Sfarad. And the king liked that very much, and I think Rav Yosef's wife was a shtickle hot in the room over there, so the king went and opened the window. And Rav Yosef said, yeah, the king served you. So that was also a micro fulfillment. I don't remember in which sefer from Rav Yosef this is, but this is also a current story that has the same message. Okay, we'll stop over here.